Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I'm joined by Brandon Anderson for our NFL recap show. We will discuss what we saw today, look ahead briefly to Monday Night Football games. There are two. Plus, we'll get Brandon's hot read for next week. But before we get started, I have a few notes, just some things from the day, to get us started, get Brandon's thoughts to get entering the slate. So, Baltimore 1-5 against the spread now. Obviously, no Lamar Jackson, but worst mark in the NFL. And I found this interesting. They are the first team with an 11-plus win total to start 1-5 ATS since the Patriots in 2017 and the Seahawks in 2015 did that as well. You've seen it on a few different places, but teams with 60+% of tickets, 2-5 ATS this week. 15-35 now ATS for the season, under 500 in all 6 weeks. Pretty crazy. So that kind of continued on today's slate. And here's just the fun one. So Daniel Jones, 4-0 straight up as a favorite this year. The most profitable quarterback on the money line this season, Jackson Dart at 2-1, plus 450 based off his money line. And today, favorites went 11-1 straight up. 11-2 this week with the Giants upset of the Eagles. Of course, favorites go 5-9 straight up last week. So wanted to see if there was a little bit of a bounce back. We got it. Carolina was the only upset, beating Dallas. Any thoughts there, Brandon, before we get to Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, you led with the stat on our Friday podcast about the bounce back possibility. That's kind of what typically happens after the big upset week. And we saw it. We see maybe it's that the favorites have the wake-up call. Maybe it's that the underdog lines are getting a bit inflated. We often see the bounce back spot, in some of these lines. And yeah, man, Ravens 1-5 is just wild. Like we joined here 5 weeks ago tonight as we got ready to recap Sunday Night Football, as we giggled along at the Ravens demolishing the Bills for like 55 minutes. And it was like, man, it's the Ravens and everybody else. And then it wasn't anymore by the time we hit record. And pretty much nothing has gone right for them since then. And Steelers beat the Browns. We'll get to that one eventually. Pittsburgh is like running away with the division, and it's mid-October at this point. So Baltimore finally into its bye week. They badly need it. But at 1-5, you have almost no margin for error left, even to make the playoffs at this point. So it is a pretty shocking collapse.
Yeah, defense looked better. We'll talk about Baltimore. Really, we won't, because who cares about the game today? But
true.
Defense better, Lamar coming up, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get to Sunday Night Football. So Kansas City wins the game 30-17, covers as a 2.5-point favorite. Total goes under 51.5 on the close. To me, the way you start this game, I thought it was pretty interesting from a market point of view. And you saw this on DraftKings as well. When I checked today, about 25% of bets on the Chiefs. Here at Action, we had 22% tickets on the close. That would be the lowest of any start in Patrick Mahomes' career. Interesting enough, 35% or less. This would be the third time he's won all those games as he did tonight. To me, off the bat, and I'll get your thoughts on this after I say it, but Detroit starts 15 plays, 61-yard drive, 9:39 off the clock, and then the first touchdown comes off the board. And I feel like they tried to set a precedent off the bat. It worked. And then just kicking the field goal kind of lost a little bit of momentum. But what are your thoughts on the game as a whole?
Yeah, as the guy that took the under, that opening 10-minute drive that settled in a field goal was just like chef's kiss. Like, you can't ask for a better start to the under for that. And it turns out we pretty much needed it, because it was getting sweaty there near the end. Jared Goff scores the touchdown, right? He goes under center, he rolls out, or I don't know if it's called a roll out, but goes in motion before the snap and then gets the catch. Honestly, I think Gibbs, or I forget if Gibbs or Montgomery threw the ball. Good on Goff for catching it. I thought Amon-Ra's block actually is what scored the touchdown. Like, he just bowled his guy over, but then it gets waved off. Goff was 100-1 for first touchdown. My buddy Andy had that ticket. That is a bad beat to end all bad beats, to get that taken off the board. But yeah, from there, really the first half and kind of throughout went sort of what we said, what was going to happen, where neither defense really did a lot. They just sort of did just enough to hit an under, as both offenses, 57% success for the Chiefs, 52 for the Lions. Those are great numbers. That's you are matriculating the ball down the field. It's just that a couple times the Lions made tiny mistakes. They didn't convert either of their fourth down attempts. Obviously, the one at the end of the game, but the key one early is a fourth down to Amon-Ra that is going to be one of his 3 drops of the entire season. He never, ever drops that pass. And that takes presumably points off the board as the Lions were driving, and instead gives the Chiefs the ball. And that's pretty much it. These teams are so good and playing so well right now that 1 or 2 mistakes really swings the whole game. And I think you have to come away saying, okay, these teams are both awesome. And if we played that game again, it would be awesome again. And quite frankly, I think it's a very real chance we get to see these teams play again. I think this could be a Super Bowl preview, and we get to see them play again in February.
Yeah. So my just remarks on the game in terms of the pivotal points. Detroit has 92 rushing yards in the first half, most in the first half this season for them. And then I look at the box score, and they have 98 rushing yards at the end of the game. So people can do the math out there. And even if the math's a little bit different in terms of net yards, that's still only 6 yards second half. So something changed there, which I think hurt them a little bit. And the first thing I look at is this, the second 8 call. It's a -3 yard pass to Gibbs short to the left that created the 3rd and 11 on that first drive out of the half. Basically, with Kansas City, especially the way their offense is going, you just can't fall a possession behind, a drive behind. Every punt is allowing them to punt or either not score a touchdown. And in this case, they kept scoring, whether it's field goals or touchdowns, and the lead was too much and there wasn't enough possessions left in the game. That's kind of the way I looked at it. But from Detroit's point of view, last 2 drives, 7 plays, 5 total yards. That's not going to be Kansas City.
Yeah, we saw again, and the announcers captured it well. The Lions are doing great as long as they stay front runners. As soon as Jared Goff has to pass, whether it's a 3rd and long or whether it's the end of the game trailing, that's not the script you want. It's not that he can't, but it's just not, it's similar. We talk about indoor, outdoor with Jared Goff. And I think people misinterpret it a lot. It's no, Goff is not terrible outdoors. He's just invincible indoors. He's still pretty good outdoors too, and the Lions are pretty good there too, as we saw tonight. They still, did plenty. It's not like we saw the weather be really a factor at all here. It's the small things, and I think Chiefs start 0-2, and now here we are. They look all the way back, right? First 2 games of the season at 0-2, they had a 43% success rate offensively. The last 2 games now, 64%, leads the league. So from bottom 10 the first 2 weeks to number 1. And by the way, this was the 6th game. Rashee Rice is back now going forward. Yeah. The star receiver that, I don't know if even people quite realize how good he is for them and how important he is. Just the yak monster. And in their offense with that short passing game, and now you got Juju going tonight. You got Hollywood scoring 2 touchdowns. Worthy gets a touchdown. Kelsey's making a few key plays on 3rd down. Now you get Rashee Rice back in the mix. I think they're into the bye week, so he'll come back after that. Check if you play fantasy, check your waiver wire and absolutely make sure this week, don't wait around till after the bye, get Rashee Rice on your roster. He is a top 10 probably fantasy receiver the rest of the way. I'd note about the Lions run game. Great in the first half, but overall, Gibbs 65 yards, Montgomery only 4 carries, 24. Chiefs are going to take that against the Lions. And Amon-Ra 9 catches, only 45 yards. The Lions just couldn't get chunk plays. The Chiefs were a bend but don't break, and the defense did just enough on a couple plays on 3rd down and 4th down to make the difference. I think Detroit finished 5 of 11 on 3rd down and then 0-2 on the 4th down. So that's it. You made a couple of stops. This 30-17 feels like maybe not the shootout we expected, but it wasn't that. The offenses were great. We just ran out of time because the offenses were so good and they kept grinding the clock down. So both teams good. I don't think the Lions really have anything to hang their head about here. And Detroit is going to get healthier, just like the Chiefs getting their guys back. The Lions should start to get some more guys back. And they were shorthanded here on the line in the secondary, and I think we kind of saw that play out as well. So Detroit's 2 losses now, and they really have lost the 2 big games and won the other games. but I actually feel like I learned the most I have about Detroit in this game. Even in a loss, I feel better about them now.
Yeah, Detroit gets Tampa Bay next on Monday Night Football next week, which kind of fascinating in itself. Great game. Kansas City gets the Raiders, which always creates some problems for them in different categories. The one stat I thought was interesting, which says a lot about the game, biggest play by expected points added tonight was Mahomes' touchdown to Worthy in the first quarter. Not a ton happened in this game that changed much. So I felt like once that happened and Detroit didn't score early, again, just a possession behind. And one last thing, when Casey has no penalties and no turnovers, that is not a way you're going to beat Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. I looked it up. Kansas City 37-5 straight up, under 5 penalties since 2019. It just, if you don't make them make mistakes, you're just going to lose the game 9 out of 10 times. So you mentioned Rashee Rice. It'll be nice. Rashee Rice, Kelsey, Schuster, Hollywood, Worthy. Like, you start getting some people back here, they become more dangerous. All right, you ready to roll? Keep going?
Yeah, I said the Chiefs had a bye next week. Home against the Raiders, about as close to get to a bye anyway. So I don't even feel like that's all that wrong. And Lions, Bucks, little teaser. We'll be coming back to that one in about 40 minutes as we wrap up this podcast.
Yeah, I was shocked to see, and I'll confirm this again, that is not the highest total next week. Or maybe it is. It's tied for the highest total.
It's tied. We got Bears, Washington, Dallas, I believe, is the highest, right? We're going to see a lot of points on that one. We'll get to the Dallas game in a bit, but take the over in Dallas games. Goodness. Start all your fantasy players and take all the overs. They're getting points in those games.
All right, let's move forward to what was, I guess, maybe the second best game in terms of record, just overall, maybe importance. Seattle-Jacksonville. Seattle beats Jacksonville 20-12, closed -1.5, goes under 47.5. Listen, I saw a lot of people on Seattle today, and I personally was skeptical. I didn't really touch this game. It wasn't enough for me to bet Jacksonville, but I was wrong. Like, Seattle was the right side almost the entire way. Like, Jacksonville seemed distraught, like they disorganized. They were 19 of 59 on the ground. They had 10 penalties. They had no red zone trips. Some things went right, but hard to overcome those 3 things after a short week and a great win against the Chiefs. So also no turnovers when you had 14 entering today. Like, that's going to be something that's hard to get over, especially when you've been relying on that lately. How about this one? Since Trevor's first season in 21, Jags 4-28 straight up when opponent doesn't turn it over. So something they're definitely relying on in that sense. But a few other things. Well, what are your thoughts on Seattle, Jacksonville as a whole?
Yeah, a lot of defense in this game. We had 15 punts here. So just defense is stepping up, and neither offense was really, when you hear a lot about success rate and EPA. So just a little like a reminder / lesson on the difference of those. Success is down to down. If it's first down and 10 and you pick up 6 yards, you were successful. You got over half your yardage there, you're successful. But on that same play, if you throw an 80-yard touchdown, you're still just successful. Those are the exact same outcome for success rate, but for EPA, it's a huge swing of the difference. So Seattle in this game, neither team had great success rate. 38% Seattle, 36% Jacksonville. Those are not good numbers. The defenses were winning, but Seattle, the big plays. JSN had the 61-yard bomb early, the one-play drive touchdown. We talked about this on the cap. Greg Newsome, the new cornerback Jacksonville just traded for, they said, okay, buddy, go try to guard Smith and Jigma. And Smith and Jigma had 8 catches for 162 yards and a score. So that did not go well. Welcome to the team. Thanks for joining. Seattle continues to rip open the field with explosive passing plays. And somehow, I don't know how many names you would have to allow me to Mad Libs into the sentence 6 weeks into the year. Sam Darnold at JSN has become like the play of the year in football. And they just continue to light things up. Darnold, 2 scores, almost 300 yards. JSN is putting up huge numbers. On the flip side, key stat, Trevor Lawrence got sacked 7 times in this game. Wow. Trevor Lawrence does not get sacked. You can say a lot of things about him, but he doesn't take sacks. He gets the ball out pretty quick. He got pressured over 50% of his snaps this game. Season high had been 33%. That's not a Lawrence stat as much as that is a Seattle defense stat. That is a Mike McDonald stat. And especially this game, as Seattle's secondary is banged up, getting to the quarterback and making that, giving him trouble all game. That's a huge, huge difference maker. So Seattle, both teams now are 4-2. I think that feels about right. I think Jacksonville was a bit inflated. I thought Seattle was a bit underrated. Now they're both the same, 4-2. Interesting games for both teams. Like, to me, the takeaway here is these are just both good teams, and we got to watch them. We got to accept them as contenders now going forward, and we will watch them because next week both are in island games. Jacksonville Sunday morning against the Rams, probably our best Sunday morning game of the season. Jags-Rams, that's a fun one. And then Seattle Monday night against the Texans. I will probably be on Seattle in that game. It's somehow right at a field goal in this one, but I think we might dip below the 3 if we get there. I'll probably be sniping that one early this week. But yeah, just good teams, good setup for both. My question for you, Evan, if one of them was going to win an award, Sam Darnold is now number 1 EPA per play plus CPOE. That always bodes well for MVP. Is it Sam for MVP or is it JSN for Offensive Player of the Year? I think both might be in a play now. Which one would you want? Which ticket would you look for?
I don't know the odds currently, but I would probably take JSN. I think everything, I mean, they're very correlated unless there's an injury on JSN's side or Sam starts throwing interceptions that kind of skew the stats a little bit on his end. But I would probably rather the JSN ticket. What he's doing, I mean, leading the league in receiving yards, the gap's pretty wide. The 16.57 yards per reception is absurd on 42 catches. So all of it downfield. It seems like him and Darnold have like not only a good connection, but a good deep connection, which is really boosting his stats overall. I mean, he's hit the over his receiving yards in 5 or 6 games. In one game he didn't. He went under by 2 yards against Arizona. The 696-6 is a Seattle record for him in terms of receiving yards. I mean, he's going absolutely nuts right now. I was actually going to ask you this question. So my answer is JSN, but in terms of like wide receivers as a whole, I even thought this, and I'll answer the question before, but I was like, name your top 3, top 4, top 5 wide receivers you would want entering week 7. I came up with, I think it's still Puka. I think JSN is 2 or 3. I think Amon-Ra, 2 or 3. I think you still have to have Jefferson and Chase up there. And then the other one was Worthy I was looking at. But to me, JSN, based off of just what he's doing, again, length of the field and the connection with Darnold is ridiculous.
Are we talking, if am I ranking just like what receiver do I want to win a football game, or am I looking like fantasy stats or overs?
You're trying to win a football game with a guy who's playing really well, things of that nature.
So I mean, I feel like I have to still penalize Jamar Chase a little bit in that mix, just because Flacco's certainly a little better than it was going with Browning, but I can't quite get there yet. And to an extent, probably Jefferson as well, until we can see once JJ McCarthy is back that he can get him the ball enough. I think you had the right top 3, except we're not going to spend much time on it because it was a dreadful game to watch. Puka Nacua got hurt today as well. So we'll see. I don't think that looked too serious, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think they play in London Sunday morning and then have a bye week. So he could miss. That was another one I looked at as a hot read because I like the Rams in that game. But if Puka's out, that's a pretty big loss for them. It's their 2-star receivers and not a lot of depth there. So that will be interesting. He has a history of kind of like getting an injury and taking a while to get back to top speed again. So JSN might be the guy. Like I think Amon-Ra all around, I think, is the dude. I'm looking right now. I'm seeing Amon-Ra for Offensive Player of the Year somewhere like 20 to 25 at books to 1. And JSN, we might be too late. It looks like he was about 15 to 1 before the games. He's like 5 to 1 or 6 to 1 at books now that are open again. So I still think Offensive Player of the Year tends to be a receivers award, but it seems this year like Jonathan Taylor and McCaffrey, some of the running backs seem to be more taking the lead there. MVP is tough. We'll have other names I'm going to mention as well, but Sam Darnold, if you're looking for more of odds, Sam Darnold's a little further down the list as far as kind of bang for your buck. But I don't know, man. Do you think voters are ready? Are the voters ready to vote for Sam Darnold for MVP? That's tough, but are they ready to vote for Jared Goff? Are they ready to vote for Baker Mayfield? It's like the same question about all the guys who have the season ended right now probably should be on the MVP ballot.
I think Baker is more getting the attention than Darnold is. The one thing I'll say about Darnold, faces Washington coming out of his bye week. I believe that's on Sunday Night Football. Like, I think he needs one or two more primetime, big game, win the game, connect with JSN to kind of help his campaign a little bit. It looks like he has two, primetime games. You can get flexed and things of that nature when it's Sunday Night Football. But Washington and the Rams look like his two primetime games coming up. The rest, he's going to be in that 4:00 window a lot in Seattle and things of that nature. So maybe a few more eyes. But the one note on Seattle, which has to be said before you move on, Mike McDonald, 10-1 straight up, 7-3-1 ATS on the road. Home only 4-8 straight up. So a little bit awkward there. But that has been, I think he's won 9 or 10 straight on the road as well. But I know the 10-1 number is where he's at right now. So just absolutely nails. Okay, you ready to keep rolling?
Let's roll.
All right, San Francisco and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay wins the game 30-19, cover the 3.5-point favorites. Total goes over 47. I feel like the start here off the top is probably Fred Warner. I feel like every week it's another player added to the list. And, as they get clustered and get put together, they become worth more, obviously, as a whole. But this week it's Warner. It's an ankle injury. Didn't look good. Believe he's done for the year. Bosa's done as well. Like, San Francisco at this point is just hitting a wall. And you saw it in this game. There just wasn't enough there, even though it felt like everybody on the field was doing everything they could, except for maybe Mac Jones in this one. Maybe a few turnovers didn't help. But at the moment, San Francisco 4-2, tied with Seattle and the Rams. Cardinals are 2-4. Just overall perspective on what you saw here, and then I can go over a few nuggets.
Yeah, it's really less about the game here, I think. The game was kind of the secondary result. For the Bucs, Egbuka leaves hurt, so yet another receiver injury for them. That's all top three guys. He's got a hamstring. Typically, that's going to be a couple of weeks, so we'll see how that goes. We don't know yet, obviously. I think probably Evans or Godwin aren't out too long either, but in the short term, they might be without all three in next game. But, yeah, I think not a lot to take away from the game itself. Mac Jones, 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, lost a fumble. To me, obviously that's too many mistakes. Like, that's 9 big mistakes. That's where you need Purdy. Purdy is able to give you some of the upside. Mac threw for 350 yards, but Purdy can cut the mistakes. He's still going to make some, but he has learned in the last couple of years to take some risks, but balance it out. Mac is not ready for that yet, and that's why he's the backup quarterback. It's fine. It's weird that, like, I was ready to put in my notes, man, feels like a lost season for the Niners. Well, they're 4-2, so it can't, quite be a lost season just yet, but the entire team feels like it's in the hospital right now. Here's your key contributors in the offense today, other than Christian McCaffrey. Mac Jones, Kendrick Bourne, Jake Tonjes, Demarcus Robinson, Marcus Valdes-Scantling. We got Tatum Bethune, the leading tackler. That dude is the backup linebacker in for Fred Warner. Like, who even knew most of these names a month ago, whether they were on this team or played in the NFL? They're missing right now Purdy, Ayuk and Pearsall, George Kittle, and then back to Fred Warner. I agree. That's the story of this game, and I think it's probably really maybe the story of the day in football. This team had 2 defensive player DPOI caliber guys, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. Warner's never going to win it because he's a linebacker, but he is that good. That's the 2 guys this team could not afford to lose. And now they lost both for the season. So it's a huge, huge loss for them. It's a cascading thing because now you got Bethune and other dudes that have to fill in his place. I updated the Niners. Remember, this is a defense I think I had 7th or 8th ranked coming into the season. And quite frankly, they've played really well. Robert Saleh has them playing well. They've got rookies playing well. But there's so much attrition there. With Warner out now on top of Bosa, I've now downgraded the Niners going forward from 19th to 26th defensively. So bottom 10 defensive team. Warner ends up almost a full point of spread value, which is, I know, slightly higher than most would say, but that you don't see non-quarterbacks worth anywhere near that sort of value. And that's on top of Bosa already. So if you look kind of on my roster matrix by position, it turns red if it's below average. And this is a team that was my first Super Bowl ticket of the year. And outside of running back and slightly offensive line, it's red at every other thing now. The quarterback's hurt, the receivers are hurt, and the defense wasn't really good to start with, but had 2-star players. And now they're without both of them, and there's just not a lot of talent there. So I feel like if you have a life raft to get off of any 49ers island positions, I just don't see this going well. Going forward, they play now Atlanta and Houston next up. I think those are interesting tests for this team. I don't think that those are amazing teams based on what we've seen so far, but they're probably about in the 49ers neighborhood, the way that the Niners are looking with all the injuries. And I think they're in trouble. Seattle and the Rams are both playing well, both in my current top 5 power rated teams. The Niners are nowhere close, and they're not going to get there again, no matter how healthy they get. And it just feels like yet again, this team with the injuries, every year with this team with the injuries, it stinks.
The one thing San Francisco probably doesn't want to hear is their bye is in week 14. That's a team that probably could have used it at some point early in the season to just take a reset. They don't have that. They're just going to keep playing week to week and hope to get to some people back. The one thing I do want to say about this game, because it was probably one of my favorite plays of the day, was the Baker run on 3rd and 14 at the near the end of the third quarter. It leads to also probably more important is not only the run, but leading to the Tez Johnson long touchdown that puts them up 8. And the stat behind it, and I put this in my article, but Bucks now 6-0 against a third quarter spread this season. 49ers 0-6 after this game. And that touchdown came in the third quarter that basically put this game away. San Francisco 6-17 third quarter ATS since the start of last season. So something to do with that offense, something to do with Shanahan. I mean, that's coaching coming out of the locker room, usually when you average it out. But I found that pretty interesting. And in terms of what Baker has been able to bring to Tampa Bay this year, how about this one? When Tampa's been trailing, he has 9 touchdowns and 1 pick, 16 plays of 20-plus yards in the pass game. That's second most to Stafford. And he is doing everything in his power to bring Tampa Bay back in every single game this year. And I'll just keep talking about it, but it just feels like moxie. So I love what Tampa Bay's doing. 2-game lead in the NFC South. Well, it kind of depends on what Atlanta does. But Carolina's in the mix. But Tampa Bay right now looking great, and Baker looks awesome. What else you got?
Baker MVP odds now 3rd in MVP. He's around 4-1 or slightly longer at every book. That's crazy. Yeah. This is a dude that nobody wanted that is now being widely accepted as it's Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. That's the world that we are living in now. And I think you're right with the run. Like it feels like every single week we get one Baker run where it's just like bounce, like pinballing off of like 3-4 dudes and just getting the run, getting the 1 yard he had to get. Leroy Horde used to say as Vikings fans, you need 3 yards, I'll get you 4. You need 8 yards, I'll get you 4. Like Baker Mayfield just gets 1 more yard than whatever it's needed on that one play every time. So here's interesting. The Bucks are 5-1, all 1-score games. Today had their first victory formation. They tweeted out. So good for you, Tampa. So up next, we mentioned they play Monday night in Detroit. So that's the big game for next week. We'll talk about that one on next week's Sunday night show. And again, a little bit later on. They still play Patriots, Bills, Rams, kind of in the next 6-week stretch. Here's the end of the season for Tampa. Arizona, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. So on the one hand, if the Panthers or Falcons end up good, maybe the division stays in play. Like the Panthers 3-3 and they get them twice in the final 3 weeks. You never know. On the other hand, we don't think the division's good. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 games against just like the dregs of the leads somewhat. That could be a 1-seed push for this team if they get there. That could be an MVP push. Like that could be. I don't know if we're quite ready yet for where the Bucks could be going to have escaped this early stretch 5-1. And again, a team that should be getting healthier when they get the receivers back, when they get the offensive line a little healthier and that sort of thing. So it's an interesting team. And I don't think Baker has the stats for MVP quite right now, but the narrative is just there. Like the Baker backstory, the receivers all being hurt, the run that you're talking about that happens every game, the late game heroics. I think he's right to be priced where he is, and it's just crazy that we're in that world now.
Yeah, but that stretch is important because I don't think the bye is now, because 5 games ahead, 4 of those on the road. The only one at home is against New England, who doesn't seem like they can lose. So at the current moment, and the stretch including Detroit, Buffalo, and the Rams on the road, feels like it's right now where I think we're acknowledging what Baker's done. And I think we're saying that last 6 games, maybe you wait till after the bye, maybe you wait till Buffalo. Like, I think there's a point where he is going to come back in the market. It's not now, but what he's doing is absolutely ridiculous. I have one more note that I think is worth saying on this game before we keep rolling. What Christian McCaffrey is doing in the pass game this year. I don't know if you've seen, but like the numbers as a whole, 46 receptions on 60 targets. That is second and third in the NFL. And I really tell anyone to go do this. Go to Next Gen Stats, simply nextgenstats.com, and look at Christian McCaffrey's route chart. It is literally like a child's drawing. It is absolutely unreal what he is doing week to week in that offense and what he needs to be doing because the receivers are hurt. But those numbers are absolutely ridiculous. So those were my notes on the game.
Yeah, he's been crazy. I think he's had at least 50 receiving yards in every game. And it's like he's basically a fantasy receiver, except you also get him running. I think he only had his first rushing touchdown of the season today. He hasn't really been that great as a runner, but it's like bonus content for him because he's been that good as a receiver already.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, so before we move on, do not forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from experts like Brandon Anderson, Chris Raybon, Stuckey, our entire Action Hour team. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team. Now, just go to actionhour.com/pro. Get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20, POD20. So don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionhour.com/pro. Use promo code POD20, POD20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. Okay, let's do a little bit of shorter recaps here, but we are going to go through 5 more games. Dallas and Carolina. So Carolina wins 30-27. Covers obviously +3 as an underdog. Total goes over 47 at close. I mentioned this off the top. This is the one underdog outright we saw today. 11-1, 11-2 this week with the Giants. So Carolina gets the win. The over-under told us what this could be, and it lived up to the billing. Like the over-under was high early week. It was like 49.5. I think we expected with both defenses that we were going to get some points. Carolina ends up winning it on a last-second field goal. Both quarterbacks throw for 3 passing touchdowns. Rico Dowdle gets his revenge game. 30 carries, 3-0, 183 yards. He is the last player with 183 yards and 30-plus carries versus Dallas, Alfred Morris in 2012. So it has been a minute since someone had this type of revenge on Dallas. The other storylines before I toss it back, Pickens, 5 straight games with a touchdown, which just fun in itself. Carolina, 14 rush first downs in this game. Dallas had 1. That to me is box score craziness when you look at that. But I mean, I think week to week, the Carolina Panthers at home, just simply a different team.
Yeah, the Panthers were the way better team here. 118 more yards, almost double the first downs. This offense had a 99th percentile outcome in this game, which is just not a surprise at this point, honestly, because it's the thing the Cowboys defense is allowing to anything that they run into. So, yeah, Bryce Young, when he's not way behind all game, not so terrible. Huge game for Dowdle. Our guy, Tet McMillan, came through for us. First career touchdown, and then a second one hit our plus 1,200 for 2, so appreciate that. Panthers 3-3. I don't think we really saw that coming, and they play the Jets next. So maybe 4-3. And then they play the Bills and the Packers. So maybe don't get too excited about a Panthers Island just yet. Like, a little reality check is coming. I did mention, though, they end the season with Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. If they can hang around even and stay within a couple of games, they could be live in the division if you believe in them. But let's not get too crazy. We've seen a lot of teams look believable against the Cowboys. 2 numbers for you. You mentioned the run game, how good it was for Carolina. Javonte Williams for Dallas, 13 carries, 29 yards. That is shocking. Carolina's run defense was historically bad last year, And Dallas, I think, entered the day leading the league in success rate rushing. That's been their big thing this year. So I think we have to take away that Carolina's defensive numbers have been slightly improving. And I think this is another big step in the right direction for them to have at least shut down the run game. Certainly not the passing game. And then the other thing, I mentioned this earlier, here's the totals in Dallas games now for the season. 44, 77, 45, 80, 59, and 57. Average total over 60 points a game in Dallas. So look for overs, look for individual player overs, look for prop overs, start everyone against them in fantasy. Dallas is a cash cow.
Crazy. And if Dallas is a cash cow, Carolina, what they've done at the end of games, they're 6-0 against the fourth quarter spread this season. This week they made the comeback. Last week they had the crazy comeback against Miami. But the thing I mentioned this last week, but they break the 65-game losing streak against Miami by trailing by more than one possession. And then this week, many times in that game they could have folded, but they look great at home. So they're 6-0 fourth quarter ATS, and so is Kansas City, who kept that going after tonight's game against Detroit. I mentioned it earlier, Carolina 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 home games. Best home team in the span in that streak, which is, completely and utterly different, but they're getting points at home because there's still no respect there. On the road, I think Bryce Young's like 1-15 in his career. It is a completely different game, but Carolina looked good here. So they look good. They get the win, and the only upset of the day.
We will be back to Carolina a little bit later in the show, too.
Can't wait. All right. Chargers beat Miami 29-27. Miami covers, though, as a 3.5-point underdog on close. Total goes over 45.5. I think one of the more interesting things about this game, and it's great gambling culture, but Derwin James had a chance to go down in some, just fun infamy, and it seemed like he didn't want the cover. What do you think? What was in Derwin James's mind in those last seconds?
I can tell you what was in my mind as the guy that was on Chargers hot read in this game. And look, it would have felt like a bad beat if you had the Dolphins ticket, but the Chargers really dominated the most of this game. Yeah, they were up 26-13 into the fourth quarter. And then, Miami had 2 long, good touchdown drives. I'm getting a little worried about this Chargers defense. We kind of saw last year them start out hot early and then teams start to run on them. Miami ran well this game. We saw the Minter defense slow down a little bit. But yeah, the Chargers come back, take the lead, and then I was like, all right, well, we're cooked. We can't, I had 4.5, went against me, so reverse CLV here. But then Derwin James picks it off, and it's just daylight, just open field, buddy. Run to daylight.
Could have done it.
Clock is at 0. I don't know what Derwin, you don't get to score touchdowns that much, man. You're a safety. This is your shot. Go for glory. Yeah, I feel like both sides can feel unlucky on this one. I was disappointed with good old Derwin. Tua's third interception of the day. He had a pick on the second play of the game and the third play of the Dolphins' second half also. It's not a good way to win games, is to give yourself an immediate hole starting both of the halves in the games. So, yeah, I don't have too much more to say about the game. I just kind of ticked at Derwin James. A little worried about the Chargers. They're a bit lucky, I think, to be 4-2. They were real close to a 3-game losing streak here. And again, some interesting tests for them coming up. Colts and Vikings the next 2 weeks. We'll see with the Chargers. Those teams are not the Dolphins. They're going to have to do a little better than they did today.
Yeah, Chargers have 2 home games coming up, Colts and Vikings, while Miami has 2 road games coming up at Cleveland and Atlanta. So
do the Chargers really ever have home games, though? Let's be honest.
I was going to say. So here, thank you for saying that, because I had this note. So the Chargers get their 3rd road win this year. 3 doesn't seem like a lot, but it's also not any worse than that. So I figured this was noteworthy. 3+ road wins in 9 straight years for the Chargers. Every single year, they are at least solid on the road because they have no home team. But whether it's Phillip Rivers or Justin Herbert, I feel like it doesn't matter. They play well on the road. The other things about the Chargers that I thought interesting, Kamani Vidal looked great today. 18 of 124, had a 38-yard run. It's Miami's rush defense, but at least looked good there. And Ladd McConkey just needed Justin Herbert's best friend, Quentin Johnston, to not play to look good. 7 of 100, touchdown. So look good there. I found this one great. So Jim Harbaugh, even after the loss against the Giants, he is 16-3 straight up on the East Coast with the Chargers and the 49ers. So loving these road trips, coaching out West, does a really good job at getting his teams up. I gave you a quote last week on Cam Ward after the game. I don't know did you hear Tua's quote in this game
I didn't.
at all? Okay, so I'm just going to give it to you quickly because I feel like it has to be said. But Tua is quoted after saying, "We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings." Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's like a lot of things of that nature. So we've got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that. I can't – I was going to talk about first coach fired market at this point because I feel like it's getting kind of interesting. This feels like it is going to get really, really bad before it gets better. 2 straight road games, Cleveland and Atlanta, both pretty decent defenses on different levels. I don't know what the heck's going to happen. But 1-5 Miami, and it's just the Jets that are making them look better at the moment.
And it's the Jets are responsible for the one that Miami has. Otherwise, it'd probably be over already.
That is correct. All right, let's keep rolling here. Arizona and Indy. So Indy beats Arizona 31-27. Arizona covers as 8.5-point dogs at close. Just too big of a line with the move at quarterback. Total goes over 46.5. So the news in this game kind of trumped other games. You had Bam Knight starting over Carter, which happened like an hour or so before kickoff. Both end up with 34 yards. Knight ends up with the touchdown, of course. And then you had Brissett in for Kyler. I mean, if you look up the stats, and I found this just kind of interesting, Jacoby Brissett, Kyler Murray, kind of similar quarterbacks in terms of average depth of target, similar success rates. Like, obviously, Jacoby a different quarterback in some sense, like doesn't run as much, certain things like that. But today it felt like Arizona was in the game for longer than maybe Kyler would have allowed them to be. I don't know.
It's kind of what I thought, too. I have in my notes, is there a non-zero chance they're better without Kyler? It's sort of, you have to at least wonder after this one. And I think maybe the Cardinals receivers might wonder that also. Don't forget, too, Marvin Harrison Jr. leaves injured in this game. So you're playing backup quarterback without your lead receiver, and he still throws 320 yards, 2 scores. Pretty good game in a revenge spot, although, you know, Jacoby Brissett's like every team he plays a revenge spot at this stage of his career. But they made the red zone 6 times. They just only got a touchdown 3 of them. Otherwise, they might have stole this one. I thought Indy was really playing with its food on this one and was going to finally give one back. At the same time, I'm intrigued by Arizona without Kyler, but Arizona started 2-0 and a 4-game losing streak. Here's what's next. I had to keep going because the schedule it just keeps going in an awful direction for them. Packers, Cowboys, Seahawks, Niners, Jaguars, Bucks, Rams, Texans. No breaks.
That's a lot.
2-4 in the division where everyone else is 4-2. I feel like this season is kind of over already. And honestly, with that schedule and with the Kyler injury, that's now I don't know when he's going to play again. This seems like this could get kind of ugly for this team, even though it was very competitive today.
Yeah, it's odd to say, and I'm going to give you a stat that contradicts everything we just talked about, but I feel like it has to be said. Because I do feel like they played well today. Without Harrison, which is one of my top notes as well, it's a big injury, and the concussion is something to worry about. Since Kyler arrived in 2019, QBs not named Kyler are 4-15 straight up for Arizona, 2-14 since 2022. So it has been abysmal when they have attempted to try to put someone else in that lineup, even as bad as Kyler has played in the games he's in there and the mistakes and all the stats I can throw out there week to week. So that number 2-14, that's just not winning games. And it's been tough for Arizona because they've lost 4 straight by 4 points or less in all 4 games. First time that's happened in 8 years. So just it's been close, but they just can't figure out a way to get those big plays at the end of these games. That's what I feel like I see every week.
Yeah, and I'll say too about Indy. It's October. We're getting towards pumpkin spice season. Daniel Jones is getting real close to pumpkin status right now. He had a really ugly interception in this game. We were really close to having a different conversation about Daniel Jones today than we had been in September. And so Indy's 5-1, so it all counts, and they get the win. But I definitely kind of have a side eye on this team of okay, what's happening? And was that real? And will it hold up? And maybe it holds up because the division is still pretty winnable for them. but definitely have at least one eye on Daniel Jones to see if that's still a thing.
Yeah, they go to the Chargers next week. And if the Chargers are banged up enough where Indy somehow survives, can't wait to see what that spread is when they go home to face Tennessee the week after. But we will see how that goes. Let's keep rolling here. New England and New Orleans. So the Patriots beat the Saints 25-19. They cover as 3.5-point favorites. Total goes under 45.5. Hello, Drake May. Feels like the only way to kind of start this conversation, especially after Buffalo. But last 3 games, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 13 20-plus yard completions, and probably more importantly, 3 wins. And today, 7 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down. May has no turnovers and only 1 sack, which completely keeps them in the game and was the difference. And helps New England overcome 11 penalties, which probably is something that Vrabel so upset about right now. And on 2.4 yards per rush, which, Jesus. But New England 0 of 1 in the red zone today and comes out with a win scoring this many points. Just a strange game overall, right?
Yeah, another game where the Saints, if you just kind of look at the box score, it's like, I don't know, they're kind of in this game all the way. Like, this is a relatively even game where the Saints are slightly worse, but could have won. It's pretty much what we saw. I think if you had a Saints ticket or if you had an over ticket, I think you probably should feel hard done here. The Saints had drives late where Vrabel had to challenge twice and kind of flip a call that had been made in the field and end up holding on for the Patriots. I think they probably are going to win anyways, but they might not have. And the Saints continue to be in this. It's sort of in a weird way. Like, this is a dream Saints season. They're competitive and kind of fun to watch, but they lose. Like, that's really what you want. You want to lose games because they were never going to be really competitive this season, but you don't want to watch terrible games. They got to win. They beat the Giants, who are beating everyone else right now. They got Jackson Dart's only career loss. And in the meantime, they might have a quarterback. Like, Spencer Rattler kind of looks solid out there. And we talk about all the rookies from last year, J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix. Rattler was not one of those first-round guys. Like, we got Caleb Williams, we got Drake May. I think if Rattler was in that mix with the first round, we wouldn't think of him as, like, the 7th one of the bunch. I think he'd be in the middle of the pack right now. He's playing pretty good football for them. So the Saints might be entertaining and helping draft stock and maybe not even needing a quarterback at the end of the day when they get there. New England certainly doesn't. They've got their guy. Only sad note for me, you mentioned those penalties that Vrabel's upset about. I'm upset about one of them. Stephon Diggs did not show up today, but he did have a 52-yarder late that got taken off the board. Otherwise, we hit our over and our 80 on the escalator. No Diggs on the escalator today, but we did get our Drake May touchdown, so we'll take it.
Yeah, aside from that, all I say here is, okay, it's time to talk about Spencer Rattler. So at least you took that section away from me. But 20 of 26, 227, 420 on the ground. Like, to me, and I mentioned this before, but 6 touchdowns and 1 interception all season and almost a 69% completion percentage. He has a better passer rating than Kyler, Bo Nix, Bryce Young, and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it needs to be understood that he's doing an all right job. And at 203 pass attempts with only 1 pick, it's something I'm going to accept, especially with their rush defense. I mean, I believe in 5 of 6 games holding leading rusher under 70 yards. I mean, they're doing a decent job. So, I mean, that's my note on New Orleans. Like, week in and week out, they're tough. And I believe in the favorites parlay, we had 2 or 3 legs, the 1 loser, New Orleans. So we got real close there, but didn't. Yeah,
Rattler is crazy. Yeah, crazy 1 interception through 6 games. That was, if you remember, on the Exotics podcast, we picked for most interceptions, and I took Rattler, I think 80-1, because the premise was he's probably going to get benched soon enough, probably by now, for Tyler Shuck, right? Who needs Spencer Rattler? And I was like, well, what if he plays all year? Well, of course, throw interceptions if he plays. Turns out, no. It turns out he's probably going to keep playing. They can hardly bench him at this point. He's playing way too well for that, but he's not turning over anyways. So I think that ticket's pretty much cooked at this point either way. But one other note, as far as a dream season for Saints, shout out to our producer, David. Taysom Hill back and into the end zone again. So another dream scenario for Saints fans and Taysom Hill fans.
Yeah, you watch a Saints game, and it's like I feel like they have a lot of names. Like, there's a lot of people on the field that catch touchdowns. Like they have a pretty decent team overall, and Rattlers keeping them in games. I don't know. They're frisky. All right. Broncos, Jets. Speaking of frisky and terrible, Denver wins the game 13-11. Was this a scoregami? I don't know if I've ever seen 13-11.
I've never seen 13-11. It has to be a scoregami. I've never seen.
I should have checked.
I've never seen anything like this game. This disaster.
That's
game.
right. So Jets cover the 7. All numbers as well. It was higher than that. Total goes under 43.5. Never really a question. I honestly did a double take when I saw this game in this section, but I completely get it. I'll give you here. It's a riddle. I don't think it's a haiku, but a team doesn't enter the red zone, doesn't have a play go for more than 8 yards. Their quarterback has as many completion as sacks, and they probably should have won this game. That's how I feel about the Jets, and all those things are true, but -10 net passing yards. Worst for a team in 27 years, 98 Chargers, I believe. I mean, the things that keep happening to the Jets are also happening to the Titans. And when you put the Jets in a sentence with the Titans, you know it's going bad. So I don't really know what to say about this game. Like, I feel like this was very similar to the Jets-Broncos game that was in monsoon, and this one was worse. And I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, that game you're talking about, if I recall, I think that's one where like Kendall Hinton plays, who's like the 17th string quarterback. Justin Fields is QB1. He's just terrible. 9 sacks by 8 different Broncos in this game. I didn't even know this number was possible. Minus 0.73 EPA per play passing for Fields today. 9 sacks, 8 completions today, by the way. 9 sacks, 11 points. And like you said, should have won probably. I don't really know. Like my note. So, I ordered the games for this one, and I did not watch this one. I was at church. I've never been so grateful to be at church on a Sunday morning as to miss out on this game. You're welcome, London. Thanks for.
I was doing some praying during this game as well. So we were on the same section.
I think so. So I moved this to the very bottom of our rundown, and then it got so bad when I looked into the notes, I was like, put it back up. So I just want to read off some awful other numbers from this game, and then that's it. This game had 7 3-and-outs. It had a 1-play safety drive that looked like it was going to maybe be the game winner for the Jets. Success rate. Broncos win with 33% success rate. 246 yards, by the way. Not exactly great for Denver's offense against the Jets defense that's not played well. Denver, 33% success rate. Jets, 25%. That is the 0th percentile of success rate. Not good. 8 first downs all game, 2 of 15 on third down, 1.4 yards per play. The Jets had 12 drives in this game. Here's the yardage on some of those drives. Entire drives: 3, 1, 5, -8, 13. That's pretty good. -3, -4, -7, and 1. That's how we end the game. 12 drives, no drive of 40 yards, none in the red zone. 2 drives over 20 yards, over half no first downs, and 4 of them that ended with negative yards. This is one of the worst offensive displays I've ever seen.
Yeah, nobody had 9 yards on a single play in this game. Nothing else needs to be said, at least for the Jets, I mean. I think the only thing that needs to be said is the unbelievable fact I'm about to tell you, which is at the moment, as I say this, it's about 1 a.m. Eastern Monday morning after the game, the Jets are favored next week to win a football game at 0-6. They're 1.5-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers. They would be the first 0-6 or worse team favored in a game since the 2013 Giants. It always comes back to New York. But listen, Jets are 3-17 in their last 20 games overall. They're most surely going to miss the playoffs for the 15th straight year. So we might as well make them favorite next week and see what happens. All right, you ready to keep rolling?
Yeah, we'll get back to that Jets game in the hot read when we get there.
I can't wait. Pittsburgh beats Cleveland 23-9. Cover is 6.5-point favorites. Total goes under 38. The only thing you need to know about this game, Cleveland's 22-game losing streak in the regular season in Pittsburgh now. Tim Couch, last win in that series in Pittsburgh. Gabriel, also the 15th quarterback to try to break that streak and failed. All right, Rams win 17-3, cover 6.5 on the road in Baltimore. That was con close. Total goes under 43.5. This is a fun one. So this year, Matthew Stafford, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 73.3 completion percentage in the second half. Ridiculous. 9 touchdowns, no picks, 73% second half. Just nails. Leads the NFL in passing yards in that category. And the stat I tweeted out earlier, McVay, 19-0 straight up as above a 4-point favorite, road neutral. Don't think it's going to get that high against Jacksonville, but the number is crazy. I think he's 34-8 as a favorite, road neutral as well. So really, really great numbers there. All right, let's keep going here. Tennessee Raiders. So the Raiders win this game 20-10, covers 3.5 point favorites at home. Total goes under 41.5. The Titans have lost 10 straight games straight up and against the spread after a straight up win. Last win came in 2022, I believe. And Cam Ward sacked 25 times right now in 6 games, most in the NFL. And his passer rating and completion percentage of those quarterbacks with 25 sacks, basically comparable to David Carr. That is the direction we are headed. Not awesome. And finally, Bengals, Packers. Green Bay wins the game 27-18. Don't cover the 14-point close. The total goes over 44.5 by the hook. Closer than we thought early. Maybe there was a minute or two where we thought Cincinnati was going to stay in the game and Flacco was going to do it again. The stat I'll give you, September, October, November, Zach Taylor now 0-17 straight up without Joe Burrow. Never won a game to start the season without his crown jewel. All right. Monday Night Football, we have a doubleheader for you. We are going to start with Buffalo and Atlanta. I have a few stats, some fun notes, some things of that nature. But Brandon, why don't you kick it off? What are you thinking here, Buffalo, Atlanta?
Yeah, it's a fun one. I think I'm excited to see what we can learn about these teams. I think we saw last week that the Bills are maybe a touch overrated in the market. Atlanta, I feel like we just don't know a ton about yet. They're coming off the bye week here. Right now, somehow the Falcons entered the weekend with the number 1 DVOA defense. What? I honestly thought that was a mistake when I saw it. So we'll see. We'll see how that holds up against Josh Allen and the Bills. I have some doubts there. Other side of the ball is interesting. Fringe bottom 10 Atlanta offense and Buffalo defense by a lot of the metrics. So lots to prove both ways there. I think that makes this almost more of a prove it game and kind of see what we got. Bills run defense has been gettable. So maybe if you like Atlanta, I think you got to like Bijan, you got to like Algier and just kind of pounding the run game. We've seen Atlanta win that game. I do think Buffalo coming off the loss to the Patriots, I think this is a good spot for them to bounce back here. 2 ways that I'm going to invest in the Bills. Home underdogs coming in the first half out of the bye week. That's the Falcons here, 60% ATS. So I don't love early for Buffalo, but in the second half of those games, road favorites under 6 against the team coming off the bye, 29-17 and 2 ATS on second half spread, 64%. And if you know the Bills, you know to bet Josh Allen in the second half, cover God in the second half, 66% for his career. And Bills second half, minus 2.5. We get under the key number that way. So I'm going to take a Bills second half position. And then another similar angle that we played a couple of weeks ago. Bills team total right now is 27.5 plus 100 on that one. 30 points in Bills wins. 15 of their last 17 wins since the start of last season. So if you think Buffalo wins the game, they should get to 30 as well. We get under the hook, right? 28. We like to stay under the 28 and even odds there. I'm not going to do any escalators or anything. Just Bills second half and Bills team total. And I think the Buffalo finds a way to get there. But it should be a fun game.
2 stats to back you up because I don't really have a play on the spread or total itself. But Raheem Morris, 13-25 against the spread at home. Been terrible. But this one hit me. When he's a home dog, 4-16 against the spread, which is pretty insane in itself. And then the Bills, like you said, coming off a loss. But when they're off the loss, they go road neutral. 13-3 straight up with Josh Allen, winning by almost 10 points per game. So, like you said, a good bounce back spot. In terms of the bets that I like here, so I have Cook already in a parlay for a touchdown in my profile. Can leave that alone. Some fun things I was looking into on both these games. I don't know if you saw this as well, but we have some tight end questionables that are keeping some props on tight ends off the board, which kind of sucks here. We've got Kincaid's injury, which has me struggling in this one. Atlanta's great versus tight ends, so a bit contrarian of a look, but I kind of liked Kincaid. If Kincaid doesn't play, I actually really kind of like some Knox props. Like, I think there's an opportunity. Buffalo needs to move forward in this game. They're going to try to run the ball because Atlanta's pass defense has been absolutely nails this year, doing really, really good things. But I think there is an opportunity there. So I kind of liked Knox, but there's no props there. The other thing I really like in this game is Joshua Palmer. I know Curtis Samuel has a questionable status on his head right now, so no Samuel would be better for Palmer. But I'm going to do a little bit of a parlay on something, and it's going to be in Bears and Commanders, so I'll hold it for a second. But those are probably my looks. If Knox played, like 2 touchdowns right now is 30-1, especially it'd be nice if there wasn't Kincaid. But those are my thoughts overall. Anything there?
Yeah, if Kincaid is out, I got to believe our touchdown guy, Gilles Gallant, is going to be on Dawson Knox. We know how Gilles loves to play Dawson Knox touchdown, so I think that one makes a ton of sense there.
All right, you ready? Let's go Bears, Commanders. The only 2 notes I'm going to toss you here before we get to your bets. Caleb 0-4 straight up in night games, and probably a little bit more dangerous. He is actually 1-9 first half ATS on the road in his career. So terrible early in games on the road. See if that changes against Washington in this Monday nighter. But the one that's fun, Bears 4-0 to their team total over this season. So scoring a ton of points, things getting a little bit out of control in some of these Bears games with turnovers, probably getting them a few more possessions. But what are you doing here with Chicago and Washington?
This is a really big game locally here. Chicago fans really want this one. The Cubs season is over now, so it's all eyes on football. And this was the game last year that totally turned the Bears season. They were set to go to 5-2. They're rolling. Then the Fail Mary goes the other direction. Everything goes bad. And don't forget, it's Caleb Williams and it's Jalen Daniels. This is the quarterback that Chicago took and the one they didn't take in the draft as well. So there's a lot riding on this game. I think Chicago is going to have been very invested in this game coming out of the bye week. And the bye week, I think, sets up for some value on Chicago here because injuries, I think, are a big swing in Chicago's direction. Washington is going to be without Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown. Debo's been good, but is a gadget receiver and a guy that you can kind of figure out scheming-wise with 2 weeks to prep for. Whereas Chicago, they look like they're going to get back a bunch of dudes that we've been waiting a long time for. TJ Edwards at linebacker, Kyler Gordon in the nickel. That's really important against Debo, especially Darnell Wright and Jonah Jackson on the line. Getting that line healthy, getting the defense a little healthier. That's why I was big on this team coming into the year, and they just haven't been healthy. And so I'm not quite there yet again, but I think that could be a big swing. And this line actually has moved, I think, just today alone from 4.5 to 5.5, which admittedly is not a real exciting zone of line movement. But I think 5.5 is too many. I'm going to take the Bears. Some trends in Chicago's favor here. Teams that are 2-2. We had some of those trends last week. Well, Chicago wasn't a bye, so they still qualify here. If 2-2 team has a positive turnover differential like the Bears, 57% ATS in that next game. If they have a negative point differential, they're getting outscored, that's actually good, 59% ATS. And then if they're facing a team above 500 with a spread between field goal favorite or touchdown underdog, 63% ATS, all as 2-2 teams. And just kind of a other stat neutral to 2-2. Since 2010, teams that win by 17 or more as underdogs of a touchdown or less, that's the Commanders. They got the big win against the Chargers last week. Those teams are only 35% ATS the following week. So I think the number here is a bit too high on the Commanders and a bit low on a Bears team that is lucky to have made it a 2-2, honestly, but gets the chance to get right, get healthy, get to the spot that they have had circled on their calendar, waiting for this one out of the bye. I'm going to take Bears 5.5. I'm going to touch the money line too. I think Chicago has a real shot here to get the win. And you got Ben Johnson settling in. I had to get the name out there in the pick. Money line is plus 220. I think this is a really fun game. I think it's going to come down to the end. I think the Bears have a real shot to win this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Chicago. Too many points. I wouldn't make this game 5.5. I would make it closer to 4, maybe even 3.5 in some circumstances, especially with the injuries on Washington's side of the ball offensively. Like I know Jaden Daniels is Superman, but he's down a few sidekicks. And I think it's you're going to see it in this one. In terms of the props I was looking at, so I talked about Joshua Palmer like that in the other game. Obviously, hope Samuel doesn't play for that prop. But with this one, I believe Colston Loveland still questionable, which is a big just thought process when betting Cole Kmet, and no Cole Kmet props are currently up. If circumstances, a lot of questionable tight ends here. But with Kmet and Knox, 16-1, both to score touchdowns, which I thought were good bets. And if you want to flip out Knox with Kincaid, it's 13-1. Still find that kind of interesting. And Cole Kmet, even if Loveland plays, maybe even helps a little bit, get 2 tight ends out there, a little bit less attention. I think he gets the look in this one. Especially also Washington last in DVOA versus tight ends. You've seen Pitts, you've seen Bowers, you've seen Kraft, all kind of have good days against them. So I think that is worthy. And then the long shot that you can play right now, because tight end stuff isn't up, and I had David, our producer, quick slip this. This is a long shot. Curious what you think here. But with me liking Palmer, I also like Burden to potentially have some fun in this game. Both 40+ at 16-1. Crazy long shot. You could definitely take it at 25-1 or just parlay their overs, but I think they both have some upside. So that's how I would play this.
Hard to argue with the number. You're going to be sweating it out and just hoping for the big play on both those guys. Yeah. You need one big flea flicker or something with Luther Burden and just hope that you get the big play. I got distracted as you're talking about all these various tight ends in and out. I was like, man, Evan's like coming up with another National Tight Ends Day. Hey, when is National Tight Ends Day? It looks like a couple weeks away. I think it's the 4th Sunday in October. But let's make a mental note. I always forget until we get to the day of, and I'm like, why didn't I bet all the tight ends? I thought maybe you discovered like a National Monday Tight Ends Day or something.
Nah, I mean, tight ends have been doing really well. I think last week they had a ton of touchdowns. But regardless, if you want to tail some of these bets, Monday Night Football, make sure to look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. You can also find these quick slips in the live YouTube chat if you're still hanging out with us. All right, Brandon, I think we've teased them long enough. We are ready for your hot read plays for next week. Also, just looked at DraftKings. That line back on the board. So what are you doing?
Yeah, we're going to a team that just finished playing. We're going to take the Lions all the way to Monday night next week. Lions home against the Buccaneers. 5.5 right now at DraftKings. Give me Detroit football. I just think the Lions are a lot better. I think this line should be north of a touchdown. The Bucs still have a ton of injuries. We've talked a lot about both these teams at the top, but offensive line possibly missing all 3 receivers if Egbika's out. They still got injuries at corner. They're still missing Bucky Irving. Detroit is missing its top 2 corners. That was part of the cap in this game tonight, but no corners, no receivers. Maybe fair there, but Detroit, I think, probably gets Aleem McNeil back for this game. That's big for them. That's really big. And maybe Taylor Decker on the line as well. So injuries favoring to Detroit here. Detroit is just so good, man. We saw them tonight, how good they looked. Entering the weekend by DVOA, they were top 5 at pretty much everything. Offense, rushing and passing, defense, running and passing, special teams, top 5 everything. The Bucs have a few weak links. The running offense has not been good, and the passing defense hasn't been good. And in particular, Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown have shredded this Todd Bowles defense. These teams played 3 times the last 2 years, once in the playoffs. The Lions won 2 of the 3, including the playoff game. The one game the Bucs won, the Lions had more than double the yardage and badly outplayed them. They just had some turnovers in there. Goff averaged 316 yards in those games. Amon-Ra St. Brown averaged 10 catches for 107 yards. So we might be coming back to this one next week on the best bets for a few props as well. But Jared Goff, we mentioned this before, with the Lions indoors, untouchable. 35, 12-1 ATS, 75% cover rate. This guy is a cover machine. This is a spot you want him. It's a spot you want the Lions coming off the loss now to go get the win and not fall too far behind the Bucs on the top of the NFC. 5.5 points. Love it below the key number, 6 and 7. Grab it now. I think it's going to move up quickly.
Yeah, I'll have the updated numbers in my article this week, but I believe the Lions have covered like 9 straight or something like that off of a loss. So decent spot there. And if you want to know the look ahead on that game, 3.5 for Detroit, 49.5 total up to 53.5. Just for fun purposes, I kind of hope it gets to the 54 and up because that game could have a ton of points and should be awesome. All right. Your other game, not so awesome. So what are you doing in this second one?
Not so awesome. Probably not a ton of points either. This is a pick on principle. I've teased this one a couple of times. The Jets are favored next week as an 0-6 team that just had negative passing yards and most importantly is coming home from London without a bye week, winless, and they're favored on principle. Panthers money line. It's an even plus 100 out there. You mentioned the Giants from 2013 as the last winless team favored this late in the season. I only found 5 in our entire BetLab system. So like over 2 decades of data, week 7 and later, we just don't see teams favored. Here's what that tells me. They're not going to be favored. They're not going to be in that group once we get to kickoff. Slightly more common, week 7 or later, winless teams, underdogs of a field goal or less. That's where we're going to end up here. Those teams are 4-9 straight up. And I think that's where we're going to end up as well. I think the Panthers are going to get the win. We talked about their defense coming together a little bit, particularly against the run. They just held that Dallas run game in check. It's all you need to do against the Jets. They can't pass. If you can hold the run in check, you're going to be in good shape. And I think maybe we have to come back for Ted McMillan as well. Jets number 32 pass defense, DVOA, could be another setup for Carolina's passing attack. Look, we made some money today on the Jets and on Ted McMillan. So let's just put some of this, roll it over into Panthers money line. Who can't just wait till ending at midnight or 1 a.m. East Coast to jump on a Panthers money line and pick to end a long podcast? Plus 100. I think worst case scenario, if we change our mind, I think the Panthers end up minus something on the money line, and we can now just kind of play the Jets on both sides and get out of here with something. So I on principle, come on, don't let the Jets be favored. What are we doing?
Panthers Island, maybe for just 1 week. We bring a raft.
Once.
It's one bet. And then as soon as the game ends, everyone get off the island as soon as possible.
Parachute in and bring
Take
your life
money. Go to the bank. Make sure it's like stealing money from a baby. Okay, again, if you want to tell Brandon's hot read, find the quick slip link in the podcast video description or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. That'll do it here on the Action Network podcast for our Week 6 recap episode presented by DraftKings. Give us a like on the YouTube video before you take off. We really appreciate it. And now go to actionnetwork.com/pro and use a promo code POD20, POD20 for $20 off a year of Action Pro. And if you have not already checked out Playbook on X, just tag @Playbook and tell it to grab whatever bets you're looking for, and it'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds. You can also upload a screenshot or reply to any bet you see from your favorite Action Network contributor on X. We will be back for Action Island before Monday night's double header right here on Action Network's YouTube page, as well as more NFL best bets from Brandon, Raybon, Stuckey's six-pack episode, anytime touchdowns, and more on the podcast feed next week. Thank you for listening. Good luck with all your bets, and let's enjoy that double header on Monday night. See you later, everybody.